us a story? Please. A royal story, Grandma.
Let me see. Tonight I will tell you a story about Tam Queen. When I visited her in the palace, she told me about her life. This is the story she tells.
My dear friend, have you ever heard the saying, if you want to sit in a position no one else can, you must endure feelings no one else can? That saying truly applies to my life. Thinking back to those days, my mother was a very beautiful woman. My father used to love her very much. When I was born, I received immense love from both my father and mother. But then one day, my mother fell seriously ill and passed away. My father continued to raise me alone. Fearing that he wouldn't be able to take care of me properly, my father married a stepmother. Not long after that, he also passed away, leaving me alone to live with my stepmother and her child. My stepmother despised me, always making me do chores from morning till night. She even forced me to go to dangerous places like the deep forest. Every time I went there, I encountered wild beasts, but luckily, they didn't harm me like she did. They helped me, and because of that, I returned home safely. This made my stepmother very displeased. When I grew up, I became a very beautiful girl, and of course, this made my stepmother unhappy. One day, our stepmother suddenly called me and Cam, telling us to go catch shrimp and fish. She said whoever catches the most and brings them back first will be rewarded with a red camisole. As it had been a long time since I hadn't ever worn a beautiful camisole, I was very excited and tried my best to catch shrimp and fish. I swam deep and caught a lot, so my basket was full in no time. In contrast, Cam's basket had nothing but wild fruits. Cam appeared flustered when she saw me getting ready to go home. She said, "Tam, your head is so dirty, please wash it, or else Mom will scold you." Seeing that she was right, I quickly submerged myself in the water to clean up, hoping to get home soon to receive the beautiful camisole. After finishing washing up, when I came ashore, I couldn't find my basket of fish, and Cam had already gone home. I didn't know since when. Realizing I had been deceived, I felt sad, slumped down, and cried. Suddenly, a gust of wind arose, and a beautiful fairy appeared from the sky. I choked back tears as I recounted the whole story to the fairy. After hearing it, she gave me a goby. I took the goby home and raised it, and it became my friend. Every meal, I ate only half, and saved the other half for the goby. I confided everything in Goby to ease my loneliness. But one day, like every other day, I called the goby up to feed it, but it didn't appear. All I saw in the well was a red lump of blood floating. Feeling a sense of foreboding, I rushed down the well to search, but there was no sign of the goby. Overwhelmed with fear, once again I burst into tears. At that moment, the beautiful fairy appeared and told me that while I was out working, my stepmother had come and caught the goby to eat its flesh. Now I had to take the bones of the goby and put them into 4 ceramic jars to bury them. At the right time, the fairy would instruct me on what to do with those 4 jars. Time passed by until one spring day, the king held a grand ball, inviting all the young men and women in the region to attend. And of course, my stepmother and stepsister couldn't miss the opportunity to dress up and attend. As for me, she gave me a basket of beans and ordered me to separate the black beans from the green beans. The beans were mixed together, and even if I managed to finish, the party would already be over by then. How could I possibly attend the ball? Thinking this, I burst into tears. Once again, the beautiful fairy appeared and called upon sparrows to help me. Then she told me to take out the 4 jars I had buried earlier, and with her magical powers, she transformed them into a beautiful dress and a shimmering carriage, allowing me to attend the ball. A little later, I arrived at the ball, drawing admiring glances from everyone. And of course, the king was no exception. He approached and asked me to dance. We danced and talked with great enthusiasm. Until midnight, I suddenly remembered the fairy's advice to return home early, or else the magic would wear off. So, I hurriedly left the palace. On my way back, in my haste, I dropped one of my shoes into the river. Unexpectedly, the next day, the palace announced an invitation for beautiful girls to come and try on the shoe. Everyone eagerly lined up to try it, but no one could fit. Some found it too wide, others too tight. When I appeared, the shoe fit my foot perfectly, so the king recognized me and married me. You might think the story ends happily here, right? Not at all. I still had to face a series of challenges from my stepmother and her daughter afterward. Not long after that was my father's death anniversary, so I went home to prepare for it. My stepmother asked me to climb the areca tree and pick some areca nuts to offer to my father. Without hesitation, I climbed up and picked the nuts. But little did I know, my stepmother was at the base of the tree, trying her best to topple it, aiming to make me fall, and just as she had hoped, I fell and died. Yes, that's right. I had gone. Unable to conceal her ambitions, my stepmother hurriedly brought her daughter to the palace to take my place. I refused to surrender. I transformed into an oriole. I flew into the palace to find Cam. Seeing Cam hanging out my husband's clothes to dry, I taunted her. Hang my husband's clothes properly. Hang them on the line or pole. Don't hang them on the fence, or my husband's clothes will be teared. Seeing the voice coming from an oriole, Cam was surprised and frightened. I flew away from there and found the king. It had been a long time since I had seen him. He looked so sad and haggard. To cheer him up, I sang the tune we both used to love. Hearing it, the king was very happy, and he asked, "Oriole, Oriole, are you my wife? If yes, come into my sleeve." Hearing that, I quickly flew to him. Realizing it was my reincarnation, he made a beautiful cage for me. Every day, I stayed by his side, and he even slept next to me. One day, as the king left the palace, Cam sneaked into the room and abducted me. She cruelly harmed me, but I didn't easily forgive her. After I ceased to be the oriole, I transformed into a large tree. Since the king no longer saw the oriole, he became melancholic and often wandered in the garden. Upon seeing the peaceful shade of the large tree, which was me, the king felt peaceful and frequently came here to rest. And once again, the stepmother's envy didn't cease. They chopped down the large tree to make a weaving loom so the king couldn't be near me anymore. That day, while Cam was joyfully weaving fabric, I issued a warning. "Dare to snatch my husband, I will not forgive you." Cam, frightened, quickly took the weaving loom out to burn. This time, from where the weaving loom was burnt, a gold apple tree sprouted. The gold apple tree bore beautiful, juicy fruits, emitted a sweet fragrance. One day, an old lady passed by, took a liking to the apples and said, "Dear beautiful gold apple, please drop into my bag. I only want to smell, not to eat." Seeing the old lady's sincerity, I gently fell into her bag. She cherished me dearly, always placed me in the cleanest spot in the house. Finding her pitiful, I transformed back into a human each day to help her tidy the house and prepare delicious food so she could rest and enjoy good meals when she returned in the evening. One day, as usual, after the old lady left the house, I transformed back into a human and started doing the housework. Suddenly, the old lady appeared from behind and ran to me, crying uncontrollably. She pleaded with me to stay and to live with her. Moved by her sincerity, I agreed. And from then on, we lived together, relied on each other. One day, a group of people passed by, and as it was getting dark, asked to stay at our house for the night. Seeing the guests, the old lady asked me to prepare betel leaves and areca nuts to welcome them. For some reason, After she brought out the tray, she called me to meet the guests. Recognizing that the person in front of me was my long-missed husband, I burst into tears, and he joyfully embraced me. It turned out that he had recognized the way the betel leaves and areca nuts were prepared, just as I used to do. As soon as he recognized me, he commanded his soldiers to escort me back to the palace. What was meant to happen eventually did. I sent Cam to the isolated palace, condemning her to a life of neglect until her dying day. However, Cam was known for mistreating the palace maids, so they despised her. One day, the maids deliberately spread a rumor. After my rebirth, my skin became fairer and more beautiful thanks to bathing in boiling water. Being gullible, Cam secretly sneaked out of the palace to the nearby boiling lake to bathe. In her haste to become beautiful, she jumped in immediately. As you might expect, no one could survive such scalding water. Thus, Cam lost her life. Upon hearing the news of Cam's death, my stepmother was overwhelmed with grief and disappeared without a trace. From then on, the king and I truly lived a happy life. If you liked my story, please give me a like, share, and follow to receive stories from my other friends.